What if I told you that in the 2000s, not the 70s, not the 90s, we watched entire rock bands explode on TV, own radio, tour with giants, and then disappear so completely that most people can't even name them now? Because here's the crazy part. Some of these bands weren't underground. Some of them were supposed to be the next saviors of rock. They had hits, magazine covers, label money, stadium support slots, and then gone. No big farewell, no legendary final album, just silence. So the question is, what actually happened to them? Why did they vanish without a trace? Tonight, we're going back to the 2000s rock scene, not the safe, polished version people like to remember, but the real one, the dirty, high-pressure, late-night-in-a-van version. The version where one song on MTV2 could change your life and one fight with your label could erase you from the entire conversation. You're going to hear about bands that were built for takeover, bands that sounded like the future of guitar music, bands critics swore would be headlining festivals for the next 20 years. Some of them even did break through for one perfect moment. You've heard the riff, you've screamed the chorus in your car, but you probably don't know the ending to their story because the ending wasn't a happy victory lap. It was a shutdown. First, we're looking at the ones from 10 to 6, the bands that had the spark, the music, Burning Brides, the Bondies, Louis XIV, the Cooper Temple Claus. These weren't copycats, these were original sounds. UK psychedelic groove rock, filthy Detroit garage, Sleaze-glam from San Diego that got itself banned for being too explicit. Bands that weren't supposed to play nice, they were supposed to kick the door in. So how do you go from that level of heat to not even being mentioned when people talk about the 2000s rock revival? Who decides who gets remembered and who gets erased? Then we shift, because the next group, 5 to 1, is where it really stings. These are the almost legends. We thought they were about to take over rock radio forever bands. Boy Sets Fire, PaloAlto, Jet, The Darkness, Black Rebel Motorcycle Club. These weren't maybe someday. These were right there in front of millions. Global radio play, festival main stages, songs and commercials, movies, video games, household riffs, and yet somehow, if you bring up their names right now in 2025, most people will just blink like it never happened, and that's the real story. How can you be famous and still disappear? Across this episode, we're going to break down the rise and the fall, the one song that lit the match, the moment everything should have gone to the next level, and the thing: industry pressure, addiction, internal fights, timing, or just the machine moving on without you, that stopped it cold. I want you to pay attention to something while you watch. Which bands feel like they just needed one more push, and which bands feel like they were already there and someone pulled the plug? Because when we get to number 1, you're going to see how fast you could go from the future of rock to a name people barely recognize. And honestly, once you hear what happened to them, you're going to start looking at every new next big rock band a little differently. This is 10 Forgotten 2000s rock bands that vanished without a trace. Let's start with Messier 10. In the early 2000s, the UK rock scene felt restless. Britpop was dying, nu metal was getting tired, and labels were hungry for the next new thing. Then this young band from Leeds shows up, The Music. Not music like the idea, that was literally their name, The Music. And it sounded cocky, right? But when you heard them, it almost made sense. Their 2002 self-titled debut album hit like a lightning strike. Take the Long Road and Walk It wasn't just a single, it felt like a signal. This wasn't normal indie, it was raw, psychedelic, loud, physical. You could dance to it, but it wasn't dance music. You could headbang to it, but it wasn't metal. It pulled from Manchester groove, heavy guitar, and rave energy, then smashed it into one body, and then there was Rob Harvey's voice, that high elastic, almost otherworldly wail that cut straight through the noise. You didn't mistake him for anyone else. When people said, "This is the future of UK rock," they meant it. They looked like kids and sounded like a revolution. Question for you, do you remember the first time you heard a band and thought, "Oh, this is different, this could change everything"? Who was that band for you? The music weren't just hyped in magazines, they were touring hard, they were playing big festivals, they were getting that maybe this is the next big export talk, and that kind of spotlight sounds great until you're actually inside it at 19, 20, 21 years old, because what people don't see is the cost. Constant travel, pressure to top what you just did. You're no longer just a band from Leeds. You're the answer to where rock is going. That's a heavy thing to carry when you're barely old enough to legally drink in the US. They released more music and tried to stay moving, but the machine around them got heavier. Health issues started to creep in. Burnout wasn't a theory, it was in the room. By the late 2000s, you could feel the speed drop, that wild, high-energy, ecstatic version of the music. It was harder and harder for them to summon it on command. This is something that comes up a lot in this episode. We act like bands are engines, not people. In 2011, the music called it final shows, indefinite stop. And just like that, a band that had been talked about like this might be the next wave was suddenly over. No big ugly breakup video, no public fight, just we're done. Here's what's sad, new bands today still pull from that sound, the heavy groove, dance energy with live guitars, but the music's name barely gets mentioned in mainstream rock history. They're like a blueprint nobody credits. So I'll ask you, do you think a band can be important even if most people forgot them? Or does being remembered decide what matters?
Hey, rock lore community. Before we continue, let's have a real talk for a second, bro. You know, this isn't just a channel to us. And I hope it's not just a place you come to watch a video and then forget about it. This is a community. It's a place where we get to dig up the secrets of rock and roll, share our favorite riffs, and celebrate the artists who maybe didn't get the love they deserved. Right now, only about 1% of our viewers are subscribed. We can change that together and grow this community. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button with the notification bell on. When you do, you're not just helping a channel grow, you're becoming a member of the Rock Lore family. You're signaling to us and to YouTube that these stories matter, that this music is worth preserving, and that this community is a place you want to be. Subscribing is your way of making sure you're always in the loop. It means you'll be the first to know when we unearth a forgotten legend, drop a new countdown, or dive into a piece of rock history you've never heard before. So if you're a true fan of the lore, if you get that same feeling of discovery that I do, then come join us. It takes 1 second to be a part of something bigger.
Philadelphia, early 2000s, most rock revival bands at that moment were skinny jeans, garage, eyeliner, clever attitude. Burning Brides was not that. Burning Brides sounded like a busted amp in a basement at 2 a.m. They were loud, grimy, and a little scary. Heavy in an almost 90s way, like noise rock and sludge metal had a kid with punk and then dared MTV2 to play it. I need to fight them more than ever before. Now I'm ready for the attack. Their debut, Fall of the Plastic Empire, dropped in 2002, and people who were paying attention went, wait, who are these people? The riffs were mean. The energy felt physical, like a bar fight. You didn't hear them, you got hit by them. They got pulled into bigger tours with Queens of the Stone Age, A Perfect Circle, real heavy hitters, not cute indie packages. That told you how other musicians viewed them. They weren't a trend band, they were respected. This is the part where, in the movie version, they turn into the next great American hard rock band. But real life isn't a movie. When you start getting attention, labels start circling. When labels circle, so does control. And when you're a band built on raw energy, control is poison. You start getting pulled in 10 different directions. Make it cleaner, make it more radio, make it more marketable, make it something you're not. I got a heart full of black. At the same time, personal life is happening, relationships, children, bills. People forget this. A touring band at this level isn't rich. It's stress on top of stress. And then you hit lineup changes. When the chemistry shifts in a three-piece, it's not a small thing, it's identity. Let me ask you something here. Do you think rock still allows danger? Or does the industry only let danger in if it's safe enough to sell? Burning Brides didn't go out in flames. They didn't explode in public drama. They just slipped under. 1 year, you're on the road with huge bands. A few years later, you're technically still around, but the spotlight is somewhere else and the coverage stops. Then you're off the festival posters. Then you're not in the conversation at all. And this is how a lot of disappearances actually happen. It's not always the band broke up on stage, and sometimes it's a slow fade until people stop asking where you went. If you were into heavy guitar in the 2000s and you knew them, you felt that loss. If you weren't plugged into that world, you might not even know they ever existed. That's how fast it could go. Detroit, early 2000s, the city is in a moment. The White Stripes are blowing up, the Hives, the Strokes, the Vines. The whole garage rock revival storyline is on every cover. Every label wants their own dangerous, messy guitar band. Enter the Bondies. They drop Come On, Come On in 2004, and boom, that song is everywhere. TV, ads, rock radio. It's got that kick down the door opening riff. You hear it once and it's stuck in your head. For a second, it looks like the Bondies are next up, and this is important. Most bands never even get that moment. Most bands never get the whole world is paying attention to one of our songs. They did, but here's the other side. When a band is tied to a scene, that can save you or kill you. Being from Detroit in that moment got them hype, yes, but it also put them in the middle of drama. Comparisons and press stories that weren't even about the music anymore. Lineup changes didn't help. Timing didn't help. Their follow-up work didn't break at the same level in the US, and attention moved on fast. This is the brutal rule of that era. In the 2000s, hype could build overnight and vanish just as fast. The same system that lifts you will forget you if you don't outdo your last moment in the next cycle. Have you ever had a song you loved in the 2000s and now you realize you haven't heard it in like 12 years? What's the one track like that for you? By the early 2010s, the Bondies had gone mostly quiet in terms of mainstream visibility. No Collapse in Flames blown across headlines, just that slow disappearance from rotation, from festival slots, from bands to watch. Here's what makes them important, though. They're proof of how cruel music memory is. Everybody remembers the Strokes. Everybody remembers the White Stripes. But you can't tell the Detroit garage story of that era without the Bondies. You just can't. But most people do.
The tight pants I really want to shake up. I'm finding out Chino's fine.
Mid-2000s, San Diego. Louis XIV shows up like pure attitude. This band walked in like, we're sexy, we're dirty, we're smarter than you, and we don't care if you're offended. And the wild part is, they backed it up with hooky, swaggering rock.
I want this little smart girl with your glasses and all your books.
Finding Out True Love is Blind hit, and it felt different from the rest of indie at that time. This wasn't shy, this wasn't polite, this was glam, smirk, eyeliner, and bedroom gossip turned into guitar. And instantly, people either loved them or absolutely hated them, which, by the way, is usually the sign you're doing something real. Here's what you have to understand. A lot of mid-2000s indie rock was dressed up as rebellion, but was actually very safe.
Your books. I'm finding out and I want this stupid girl who gives me all the
Louis XIV was not safe. They got in trouble for lyrics. They got heat for their image. They even had shows blocked because people said they were too explicit, and that controversy brought attention, yes, but the industry only loves a scandal if it can control that scandal. Once press turned on them, once labels got nervous, it got ugly fast.
I want this stupid girl who gives me all those dirty looks. I'm finding
They dropped another record, Slick Dogs and Ponies, but you could feel that the wave had shifted. What was dangerous and cool last year was suddenly problematic this year. That's how fast public mood flips. Let me ask you, do you think a band can be pushed out just for committing too hard to their own identity?
Wind you up and make you crawl to me.
By around 2008, they were basically done as a serious rising act, not because the music died, because the runway disappeared. When you build your whole identity on being loud, sexual, arrogant, and confrontational, and the industry decides it's not in the mood for that anymore.
Wind you up and make you crawl to me.
There's nowhere left to go inside the mainstream lane, so Louis XIII ends up being one of those bands that people remember in flashes. Oh yeah, that track. Oh yeah, that one video. Then silence. No big farewell movie.
Tie you up until you come.
No legacy victory tour. No 20th anniversary of the classic album Treatment. Just gone. For a channel like ours, that's the whole point. We are literally here, so that doesn't keep happening. In the early 2000s, the Cooper Temple Claus didn't sound like anyone else in mainstream guitar music. They blended heavy guitars, electronics, weird textures, paranoia, and tension. It felt like you were listening to rock and some kind of glitchy sci-fi soundtrack at the same time. Songs like Promises, Promises, and Blind Pilots sounded aggressive, but also cinematic and unstable.
Lights around, but we're just out of sight.
Critics in the UK went crazy for them. They got tagged as the future, innovative, bold. You know how that goes. You get praised for not sounding like everybody else, but here's the dark joke of music. Critics can love you, and the machine can still chew you up. They were pushing a sound that wasn't easy to sell in America and not easy to package as the next Oasis in Britain. They weren't sing-along pub rock.
And I'm not done yet.
They weren't safe radio indie. They were moody, confrontational, layered. You had to sit with it. Then came the internal hit. Dids Hammond, their bassist and a core creative piece, left the band to join Dirty Pretty Things. When a band's identity is built on chemistry, losing one person can knock the whole center off balance. It's not just, we'll replace him. You lose feel. You lose internal gravity. Meanwhile, label pressure keeps growing. You're expected to both stay weird and get bigger. That's almost impossible. Let me bring you in here. Do you like bands more when they experiment, or do you like them more when they stay in one lane? Be honest. Everyone says experiment, but sales don't always prove that. By 2007, the Cooper Temple Claus split, and here's the tragedy. The exact DNA they were playing with, electronics plus rock, tension plus melody, cinematic paranoia, is normal now. Totally normal. You hear that in tons of modern alternative records, but back then, in the early 2000s, they were too weird to sell. So the band disappears, and years later the sound wins, but their name doesn't. That's one of the cruel patterns you'll see tonight. Sometimes a band is basically a prototype. The blueprint survives, the inventors don't. Question for you as we go forward: which one of these first five, the music, Burning Brides, the Von Bondies, Louis XIV, the Cooper Temple Claus, feels to you like the biggest, we lost something important there?
This video is sponsored by the Lore Store on Amazon, your one-stop shop for music lovers across reggae, rock, pop, and hip-hop. We built it for real listeners who don't want to dig through 1,000 listings to find the right gear. Inside the Lore Store, you'll find 5 aisles. VIP, top, battle-tested essentials. Headphones, turntables, speakers, gig-safe earplugs, smart speakers. Reggae vibe, roots and lovers. Rock made easy, automatic decks, warm bookshelf speakers, vinyl care. Rock lore, classic rock must-haves, open back cans, simple amps, living room concert vibes. Pop lore, feel-good everyday setups, clean, clear speakers, easy streaming, nostalgia-friendly picks. Hip-hop must-haves, punchy bass without the muddle, closed-back headphones, and living room systems that handle low-end, plus a rotating crate of old album vinyl if you're rebuilding a 60s-90s collection. Every product page tells you who it's for, 3 pros, 1 con, and why we picked it. So you can choose with confidence. Flying soon? Check. VIP for noise cancelling that tames plane roar. Mostly listening at home? Try open-back headphones that let live albums breathe. Want instant gratification vinyl? Our fully automatic turntable is 1 button from silence to music, and the record cleaning kit knocks down crackle so the bass tightens up. Headed to shows? Grab high-fidelity earplugs. Hands-free at home? Our smart speaker picks let you say, play 70s reggae or classic pop, and you're there. Deal alert! If you use the link in the description, you'll land on our curated picks with current best available Amazon pricing and active discounts where applicable. Prices change, so buy now to lock in today's deal. Tap the link in the description, pick your aisle, grab a favorite, and tell me which category you want me to build next. The Lore Store. Listen better, with gear that gets out of the way and lets the music live.
Let's start here. Not every rock band in the 2000s was singing about girls and weekends. Some bands were screaming about systems, war, poverty, media lies, and personal damage. Boy Sets Fire was one of those bands. They came out of Delaware, not a major media city, not a hype city, with this sharp mix of post-hardcore aggression and emotional honesty. They were political but not boring, angry but not empty. They could take real-world frustration and turn it into something you could scream in a crowd and feel less alone. And they could write hooks. That part matters. They weren't just noise for the sake of noise. Tracks off records like After the Eulogy and Tomorrow Come Today could punch you in the throat and still live rent-free in your head all week.
This fight begins as it will end.
That balance, message plus melody, became huge later. Other bands made careers off that exact formula. Here's the question: do you remember the first time you heard heavy music that wasn't just I'm mad, but I'm mad at something real? Who was that for you? Everyone likes the idea of a band that stands for something. Reality check: the music industry actually doesn't. When you're political, you get labeled difficult. When you're confrontational, you don't get the same radio support, you don't get the same TV bookings, you don't get the same cute, safe rebellion marketing that pop-punk bands got in the early 2000s. Meanwhile, they toured non-stop, grinding, van life, small venues, overseas runs, living off merch money. That lifestyle burns people down over time. You're loud, you're intense on stage, and then you sleep on a floor, repeat. Inside the band, that pressure builds. You've got families forming, you've got bills, you've got the question, is this sustainable?
Just one night away from it to be.
The truth for most bands like this is simple. No, it's not. Not long term. This is where we need to be honest about the dream. The dream sounds romantic. The job is brutal. In 2007, Boy Sets Fire ended it. They split. Physically and mentally, they were at a point where they just couldn't keep pushing the way they had been. That original 2000s run, that urgent moment where they were in the conversation was over. Yes, they did reunite later. They've played shows. They've released music again. Respect, but the window where they could have jumped from respected cult band to full mainstream voice, that window is gone. Here's why that matters: the sound that radio started to love later, emotional, melodic anger. They helped build that road. They should be in that story. Most people don't say their name, and that's how a band can vanish, even if they technically still exist. The moment is what disappears.
Why no one else can believe in this? You wanna feel something to
Los Angeles, early 2000s, the landscape was wide open. You had grunge fading out, post-grunge hanging on, emo about to get huge, soundtrack rock getting massive placement in movies and TV. In that space, PaloAlto slides in. PaloAlto wasn't a garage band. They weren't a pop punk band. They weren't trying to be cool Brooklyn indie. Their sound was widescreen, cinematic, emotional, big guitars, big atmosphere, big feelings.
Coming closer to my way.
James Grundler's voice carried that aching, desperate edge you associate with end credits of a serious movie, not just track 7 on an album. When their album Heroes and Villains dropped in 2003, that was the moment that felt like, okay, this is about to go.
You wanna feel something to call your own that they can't cut.
Songs fit perfectly into that early 2000s world of intense, emotional rock in films and drama TV shows. You could easily imagine them sitting on modern rock radio next to bands like Muse, U2 influenced alt, that era of serious sweeping guitar music. Question for you, do you love when rock gets cinematic like that, when it feels big and dramatic, or do you prefer scrappy raw?
Coming closer to my wits.
Here's where it turns. In music, momentum is fragile. Sometimes it's not even about the band. Sometimes it's about money, timing, and business. PaloAlto had songs. They had a direction. They had a vocal identity people remembered instantly. What they didn't have was industry stability behind them. And when a band is at that almost about to break level, label problems can destroy you overnight.
It's pushing out this insecurity.
Think about that. Not because the music isn't good, not because the band stopped caring, just because the machine holding you up lets go. That's what happened here. The climb stalled, the push stopped, the wave never broke, and if the wave doesn't break in that window, you don't get another shot. The industry just moves to the next new act.
See the day it'll come out clearer. I don't wanna.
After that point, PaloAlto dissolved. Grundler would later show up in another project, Golden State, but PaloAlto the brand, PaloAlto the this might be the next big serious alt band, was basically erased in real time. And here's the painful part. If you weren't watching closely in 2003, you might not even know they ever existed. They don't get name dropped in best of the 2000s rock lists. They don't get documentaries. They don't get nostalgia tours. They kind of just
I don't wanna fade out. I don't wanna fade in. Like
didn't make it into the museum, but the sound, that large, emotional, dramatic alt-rock sound, that absolutely did survive. This is the brutal question of this whole video. If the sound lives, but the band's name dies, is that success or is that theft?
I say, let's so fine that I really wanna make you mine.
2003, a guitar riff hits global radio. Are you gonna be my girl? That drum intro, that strut, it's pure bar rock confidence. It's AC/DC bloodline, Rolling Stone swing, swagger, leather jacket, beer bottle, sweat on the floor energy, and it explodes.
You home with me, but you were with another man.
Jet from Australia suddenly looks like the return of real rock. No eyeliner, no synths, no pop-punk teen marketing, just riffs, attitude, and classic rock DNA. Their debut album, Get Born, becomes enormous. For a minute, it genuinely felt like guitar-based. No-frills rock and roll was back in the center of mainstream culture.
I said, are you gonna be my girl?
Here's how big that is. Most bands never get that cultural role assigned to them. People were literally saying, Jet is bringing rock back. Let me ask you, do you remember where you first heard Are You Gonna Be My Girl? Was it radio, MTV2, a video game, an ad? Because everyone remembers that riff from somewhere. Now here's the danger with blowing up that fast.
No way, and God must have said before I let you go.
Once the world decides you're the saviors, you're in trouble. The second album has to prove you're not just nostalgia cosplay. The live show has to prove you're not just copying older bands. Critics start circling with knives, derivative, unoriginal, retro.
I say, let's so fine that I really wanna make you mine.
Same press that builds you will absolutely tear you down because the backlash story sells too, and Jet felt all of that. the follow-up releases didn't control the culture the way Get Born did, rock press cooled, mainstream attention moved on, and once you're not the future of rock anymore, you're just another band with guitars. That's how mean the industry is. Internally, keeping chemistry together under that kind of spotlight is hard.
Your kicks, now you don't need money with a face like that, do ya?
You go from bars to global fame in basically one record cycle. Not everybody survives that mentally. By 2012, Jet had officially split. Yes, you may still see their name tied to reunions or appearances here and there, but the original version, the band that felt like it was about to dominate arenas for a decade, that version ended, and here's what hurts. People act like Jet was a cute, one-hit nostalgia thing.
Big black boots, long brown hair.
No. For a moment, they absolutely had the keys to the building. They were right there. They are the perfect example of how fast the machine can love you and then pretend it never called you. Rock in the early 2000s had gotten very serious. A lot of it was angry, gray, heavy, moody. Then the darkness arrived from the UK and basically said, no, rock can also be theater. They brought back full glam energy, high falsetto vocals, shredding guitar solos. Spandex level confidence and hooks that sounded like Queen having a food fight with AC/DC. I Believe in a Thing Called Love wasn't just a hit, it felt like a portal back to when rock was allowed to be ridiculous, technical, and joyful at the same time. For a moment, especially around 2003, 2004, it felt like they were about to reboot mainstream rock culture, like we're bringing big rock back. No apologies. And honestly, we needed that. Rock had gotten self-conscious. The darkness made it fun again. Now, when you're that huge that fast, everything gets extreme. Money gets extreme. Pressure gets extreme. Ego, substance use, internal arguments, all of it. And that's exactly what hit the darkness. They weren't a slow burn career band. They shot up like a flare. Arena level attention almost instantly. And when a band jumps to headlining status that fast, the infrastructure around them doesn't have time to get healthy. Management, expectations, media, personal stability, none of it has time to mature. The result, chaos inside the band, addiction issues, and a drop-off almost as fast as the rise. The moment shattered. Think about that for a second. You fight your whole life to make it, you get it, and it eats you from the inside. Do you think fame fixes bands or breaks them faster? Now, technically, the darkness never truly died. They've come back, they've toured. They've made more music, they still have fans, that's all real, but culturally, that lane they had in 2003, this band might actually drag glam hard rock back into the center of popular music lane, that's gone. The window closed. Mainstream rock did not follow them into cartoon-level, arena-sized theatrical excess. The industry let them be a moment, then boxed them up as novelty. That's the loss, because the truth is, the darkness showed a whole new generation that rock can smile, show off, and still absolutely rip. That should have been a longer era. Instead, it was a flash.
Hey, Rocklore community. Before we continue, let's have a real talk for a second, bro. You know, this isn't just a channel to us. And I hope it's not just a place you come to watch a video and then forget about it. This is a community. It's a place where we get to dig up the secrets of rock and roll, share our favorite riffs, and celebrate the artists who maybe didn't get the love they deserved. Right now, only about 1% of our viewers are subscribed. We can change that together and grow this community. All you have to do is hit that subscribe button with the notification bell on. When you do, you're not just helping a channel grow, you're becoming a member of the Rocklore family. You're signaling to us and to YouTube that these stories matter, that this music is worth preserving, and that this community is a place you want to be. Subscribing is your way of making sure you're always in the loop. It means you'll be the first to know when we unearth a forgotten legend, drop a new countdown, or dive into a piece of rock history you've never heard before. So if you're a true fan of the lore, if you get that same feeling of discovery that I do, then come join us. It takes 1 second to be a part of something bigger.
When Black Rebel Motorcycle Club came out in the early 2000s, they didn't market themselves like a band. They moved like a myth. Black clothes, fuzzed out guitars, bass lines that felt like they were coming up from under the floor, smoke, drone, attitude. Songs like Whatever Happened to My Rock and Roll punk song felt like a dare. They gave off this energy like, we're not here to be on your playlist, we're here to restart the religion, and people believed it. Music Press in 2001, 2003 talked about BRMC like they were the dark future of rock. The American answer to that, Jesus and Mary chain, velvet style, leather jacket, underground faith. They weren't just another noisy trio, they were supposed to be a movement. Let me pull you in. Did you ever fall in love with a band because of pure vibe before you even really knew the songs? That's what BRMC was for a lot of people. Vibe first, then sound. Here's where it breaks. The myth is beautiful from the outside. From the inside, it's ugly. BRMC had label fights, they had creative battles, they had addiction struggles, they had member changes, and with a band built this much on chemistry and tension, losing a member isn't business, it's a structural collapse. They also did something risky. They changed direction. Howl in 2005 pulled in blues, Americana, gospel vibes, stripped down grit. Artistically, that's brave. Commercially, that can be deadly when labels want you to stay in your lane and give us more of the thing we can sell. So they're dealing with personal struggles, industry pressure, and musical evolution all at once. That early Unstoppable, we're gonna lead a new rock underground wave. It fractured. Here's the bigger truth nobody likes to admit. Sometimes survival kills momentum. You save the person, but you lose the myth. Black Rebel Motorcycle Club never actually went away as a band. They kept making music, they kept touring, fans stayed loyal, but the version of BRMC that people thought was coming in 2001, the version that was supposed to reshape guitar music and build a new outlaw scene around itself, that version is gone. That promise vanished. And that's what we're really talking about with this list. Some bands disappear physically, they break up and never come back. Some bands disappear culturally, the world moves on and pretends they never existed. And some bands, like BRMC, disappear mythically, they keep breathing, but the future everyone thought they were about to create just never happens. Which one hurts you more? Is it the bands like Boy Sets Fire and PaloAlto who barely got their shot before the door closed, or the bands like Jet, The Darkness, and BRMC who grabbed the spotlight with both hands and still couldn't hold it? Because here's the scary part. For every band we've talked about tonight, there are 20 more from the 2000s with the same story. So before you scroll on, answer this in the comments. Who's the one 2000s rock band that you refuse to let disappear? Name the band and name the one track you'd play for somebody to prove they mattered. The journey doesn't end here, Rock Warrior. Watch this next.